Museum theater is a form of applied theater usually performed in a non-traditional space, typically inside of a public museum, zoos, art galleries, and aquariums. Museum theater can be portrayed in many different forms. Most commonly, it is a first-person interpretation of actual people and events, performed by players in costume portraying people the museum audience will be familiar with. Elizabeth Merritt is a founding director of the Center for the Future of Museums and American Alliance of Museums. She wrote an article about a study they did on one of museum performance and how some people in the audience had shown up simply hearing about the performance, and others were members of the museum and knew they needed to be there for the performance. She found that when museums and theater work together, they produce art engagement that is greater than what either can do alone. In Anthony Jackson and Jennifer Kidd's case study of museum theater, they were studying what ways the use of performance and related drama activities in museums and heritage locations can be effective in terms of learning and interpretation. George Wolfe never thought his play, The Colored Museum, would be performed in a museum of all places. It actually seemed to be part of the exhibit. It is a satirical survey of African American identity and culture and ended up taking place in the Center for Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta. Tatiana Portnova studies all of the details it takes in a production that takes place at a museum, from the location all the way down to the posters that are made. In her publication, Structural Features of Theatrical Excursions, methodology based on theater and museum expositions. MIT is making their own way in history with their new performing arts building that is said to make strides in helping theater and art students flourish in their studies. Susan Bennett explores the relationship between theater and museums in her book, Theater and Museums, looking particularly at the collaborative processes that intertwine these two cultural practices. She argues that discourses of performance studies can open up new avenues of inquiry about the production and reception of the museum experience and its place in the contemporary culture. In exploring museum theater, Tessa Bridle, one of the leading experts in the field, helps bridge these gaps and leads you along the path to a successful museum theater program. She covers the philosophical and historical background, including how to find your style, developing your first program, costs and funding, working with actors, directors, and other professionals, technical issues, evaluations, promotion, presenting difficult issues, collaborations, and historic interpretation. Catherine Hughes' aim is simple: to prove that there is no more vital a tool for making a subject, period, or people come to life than drama. It is proved in her book, Museum Theater, Communicating with Visitors Through Drama. Most importantly, Hughes looks at the pros and cons of many of the issues teachers and museum workers will face, whether or not to write a script or improvise, be dramatic or straightforward, and things like that. She says no one is immune to learning in a museum, and in my opinion, museum theater is the best way to learn.